You are Leon Bagley, 45 years old, born December the 4th, 1978. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you're charged with armed robbery. You were sentenced on February the 26th, 2004. You were sentenced to 30 years hard labor. And your parole eligibility date was December the 4th, 2023. We're past that. And your good time release date is going to be June 30th of 2025. So what you're wanting to do is to have a shot through this hearing, a shot at getting paroled earlier than your good time date, which is about a year and a couple of months from now. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't want to rush your decision, but if you have any question about that. Okay, and then something, this is a little bit unusual, Mr. Bagley, and the fact that in my previous life, being the sheriff of Caddo Parish, as you, I don't have to tell you this, but you know, we, the department, the sheriff's office, worked your case. And so in the interest of being fair, which is this board's intent, and it's our charter, and it's what we're pledged to do, in the interest of being fair, I'm going to give you an opportunity. If you would like to put off your parole hearing, then that's no problem. That won't be held against you if you choose to have another panel that I'm not on, since I'm so directly involved in the case. I didn't work the case. I don't know a lot of details on the case other than what I've studied last night. But you have that chance. Would you like to put your hearing off, or do you want to have your shot today?
I have my shot today, sir.
Okay, all righty. I've gone over the facts of the matter here, and let me ask you a couple of things. There was somebody that was actually murdered in this, but I understand that you weren't at the scene of the murder. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell me how that. I know you were riding. I don't know this, but I take it from the reports that there were 4 of you together, and you were riding around. Start from the time that y'all started riding around. Tell me what happened.
As I can remember, we was riding around preparing for the holidays, going to a party, and went by my cousin's in my house, and him and his friends got in the car with me, and we was just riding around. And the 2 of them, my cousin and his friend, they was under the influence of, I guess, cocaine that I learned at the time. They plotted to hit a lick. And it's supposed to be in carjacking from my knowledge of it. And they jumped out my car. When they jumped out my car, me and the other guy left. Went back to my mom's house, and they later on showed up, in a vehicle. And they was delirious of what took place when they did whatever they did. Like I said, I didn't learn the knowledge of it until after the fact. Once incarcerated, I learned that they did murder somebody, kidnap, rape. And after that, it's like they stories was conflicting. And once they started making they conflict of interest with their stories, they separated everybody after we got detained. And far as that goes, that's what happened. But like I said, far as the guns, one of the guns was in my name. And I don't know if that was the actual weapon that they used, but it was 2 weapons that they had, and one of them was mine. And that's how that transpired. As far as my involvement, we never got together to plan anything. Other than that, it was like a spur of the moment thing. They jumped out my car and I left. They went, did what they did, and come back, and I grew knowledge of it from there. That's basically how that went.
Did y'all get some credit cards and some things maybe, and they brought back to your place, and y'all kind of divvied it up and went around town using her credit cards?
Not me, sir.
Were you with anybody using them?
No, sir.
Okay. The gun that was used in the homicide ended up being your gun, is that correct?
Right.
And what happened to that gun?
I I don't know. I mean, they never brought anything back to my place. When they came to my place, they was in a vehicle, you know. And like I say, my guns was in my car. You know, one of my guns always stayed on the back seat, and one stayed in between my console on my side of the car. Like I say, when they jumped out, I didn't grew the knowledge of it until after that my gun was used. Uh, I don't know what happened with the gun, but they retrieved a gun when they came and shook my mom's house down. They retrieved the AK-47, and they ended up arresting me, arresting my brother, arrested a lot of people, as I can remember, and questioned, you know, for as the credit card issue. My understanding of it was two other guys had the credit cards. I never used them. I never benefited from the credit cards. Cause they left, like I say, they came by my house, and the other guy that actually did the murder was upset because of my cousin tried to make him do some things, and he was like, take him home, take him home. Now, this is the things that I've learned since I've been incarcerated about what I've read in their transcripts of what actually happened. But it was never discussed to me that the raping and all that took place.
Okay. Who threw the gun in Cross Lake?
At this time, I can't, I don't, like I say, the guns were, one of the guns we recovered from my house. I don't know what happened to the second gun.
Okay, well, it's according to the reports, your involvement was much, and according to everything that I've read, your involvement was much greater than that. When y'all, the four of y'all together, and you got two guns in the car, and two people jump out and run and get into a lady's car and force her by gunpoint into that car. Did you see that?
No, I was pulling off at the time. They did, at the time that they jumped out my car, I was pulling off.
Y'all didn't talk about the carjacking or anything. You didn't ride around town looking for a car to jack, huh?
No, true.
The truth is, we wasn't riding around looking to carjack. They used the term of hitting a lick or something in that nature, from my understanding. But like I said, we was riding around town. We was going to a holiday party at the time, and Wilson and Bouye come up with the idea of pull up in a certain apartment complex. You know what I'm saying? They jumped out of the car. You know what I'm saying? We never rode around following behind nobody or none of that. But
Okay, well, Mr. Bagley, you paint the picture as if you was kind of like one fella told me one time he was a victim of circumference. And what he meant was circumstances. And that's what you sound like, that you were just a victim of circumstances, and you really didn't take part in the planning, didn't take part in anything to do with this. And you were basically kind of appalled about it all happening. You didn't think to call the police or anything to turn them in, or to turn them in once they grabbed this lady and stole her car? You didn't involve anybody in that, correct?
I didn't involve nobody in it.
Yes. The police, I mean.
No, sir.
Okay, so why do you think you're in jail?
I mean, they used my guns. I mean, I got charged when I first come to jail. I got charged with principle to it. You know what I mean? And from my understanding of the principles is that it was planned, it was carried out. But I misinterpret the law, and that was on my behalf. You know what I mean? Something could have been reported, you know, for my guns being stolen or whatever, but I never understood that it was taking place to where all that was going to take place.
I don't think we get far here, and I don't think we're gonna get far. Is any of the staff, I failed to recognize the staff that might be from the southwest, which is where they are. Is there any staff in the room with you?
Yes, sir.
Cheryl Cook.
Hey,
Hi.
Cheryl, how has his demeanor and behavior been and since he's been incarcerated?
Sir, he's one of our best, I have to say. Never report, never ask for anything. I told him when he first come up here, I said, I don't ever hear from you unless he's just writing, ask a question about something. And, but I have to say, he's never been in trouble here, and he's been here since, November of 20. There's not a bad report on him.
Okay.
Everybody likes him. He's working in the canteen, with Miss Smith here. He's just a very likable person here. We all like him. I have to tell you the truth. He's been
Okay.
he's been very good here.
Okay, let's go ahead with the other panel and see what they have. Mr. Freeman?
Okay, no, Mr. Bagley, I totally understand where, my fellow member, Mr. Prater, is going. You've done great in jail. You've done 20 years on a 30-year sentence. But yet your story you're telling us is not the story that you told police. I'm not saying maybe it's not the truth now, but the story you told police, you threw the gun in the lake. You knew about the credit cards. Now, do you want to tell us anything before we vote? I'm giving you your last opportunity.
I mean, when I first got locked up, you know, I didn't, like I say, I was scared, I was young, and I was immature to the facts of the things that was taking place. As far as the credit cards, like I say, I learned the credit card issue after the fact, who had the credit cards, but I never benefited from it. Not making it seem not to be honest, but like I say, that was in 2000 about the gun situation. I have like I say, one of the guns was at my mom's house, and I have, if I can recall, threw one of the guns away. And that's when I learned that something took place of the situation.
Okay, so you did throw one of the guns away?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Which gun was it?
It had to be the small caliber gun, the 380 or something, 380.
And where'd you throw it?
It was in a lake. I can't recall what was the name of the lake.
Yeah, now we get some. Pete, are you getting anything else, sir?
No, I just wanted you to, I know it's been 20 years ago and you're trying to say the right things, but the right things are the truth, because that way you don't get caught in a lie.
Right, right.
You always told me anyway, but anyway, I'm glad to see that you're admitting more of your involvement in the crime.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Ms. Ledoux?
Good question.
Okay, all right, that takes care of that. Ms. Fitzgerald, welcome this morning. It's good to see you. Is there anything that I see someone else.
I just say this bag, just give this bag.
Okay. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Miss Bagley, I didn't see this on there. You're the daughter and you're dialed in on Zoom, I take it. And tell us what you have to say.
Good morning to everyone. I didn't want to speak. I wrote a letter.
Oh, you didn't care about speaking?
No, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Let him make his closing statement, later, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Okay, yes, sir. Let's go back to Mr. Leon Bagley. Mr. Bagley, you have a chance now to make your closing statement, and then we'll go to Ms. Fitzgerald. Wait,
Where they
you're-
got you on silent.
wait just a second.
We here?
Okay, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead and give us your statement.
I just want to say I've learned as I've grown over a period of time that my actions and my consequences and choices make a difference. I was immature, hanging out with the wrong crowd, and being incarcerated has taught me a valuable lesson. I've never had a run-in with the law enforcement, and I just want to appreciate y'all for giving me the opportunity. It started off a little rocky with me because, like I say, I've been through a lot, and it's not throwing the weight on nobody's shoulder because we all go through a lot on a daily basis. But I just, like I said, I apologize for my reactions and my responses, the way they came out. It wasn't my intentions to misinterpret and not be truthful about the situation. And I just appreciate this time and opportunity to make my statement.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bagley. Ms. Fitzgerald, Ms. Leon Fitzgerald, and we thank you for your work that you do, consistently giving us good reports and representing the victims. Could you give us a statement, please, ma'am?
Sure. Well, I'm very disheartened that after all these years, and it seems like the board is aware that basically what you all just heard from Mr. Bagley is a bunch of rubbish. And I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself to the other board members. I'm Leon Fitzgerald, and I work with the Caddo Parish DA's office. I'm the director of the Victim Assistance Program. And I've been here for a long time, and this was actually my case as it was going on. And so I remember it quite well because it was one of the most horrendous, heinous, heartless, worst cases that I've ever seen in my 27 plus years here. And so I think the board is mostly familiar with the facts of what happened, but in light of Mr. Bagley's statement, I would like to just hit a few of the highlights. And that is that Mr. Bagley was very much aware of what was going to happen. This was a plan. This was 4 people, including him. He was the driver. And this crew had already been to 2 locations in the city of Shreveport looking for a victim, for someone to carjack. They had sat in a Walmart parking lot, and they had sat in another, I can't remember for sure, maybe that was a Walmart too. They'd been to 2 different places. In one occasion, they had even selected a victim, but it didn't work out because I think someone came out of the store and got in the car with her. So then Vicki McGraw is doing nothing more than driving down one of our public streets, going to her boyfriend's apartment to bake a birthday cake for her teenage daughter. And that is when this pack set their sights on her because she was driving alone. They followed her to the apartment complex, and whenever the crew got there, 2 of the others got out of the car. They carjacked her at gunpoint. They forced her back into the car. Mr. Bagley here, who knew fully well what was going on, went back to his house with Toria Scroggins, while Derek Bouye and Aaron Wilson went off with Vicki McGraw in her vehicle. She was raped, and she asked to use the bathroom, and she got out on the side of the road, and as she was squatted down on the ground using the bathroom, Aaron Wilson shot her in the head. The next day, she was discovered. The person who saw her thought that it was a bag of trash, but it was a human being. Her family was frantic looking for her. They had called her cell phone, and at one point, a black male answered Vicky's cell phone. The crew went back to Mr. Bagley's home. He hosted the get-together after Vicky was murdered, where they all divvied up her credit cards. He admitted that he gave the murder weapon to Aaron Wilson, who was only 17 years old at the time. And he admitted that he threw the murder weapon into Cross Lake, the lake that he can't remember the name of right now. The biggest lake around the area that we live in that is our water source, and he cannot remember the name of the lake. So that is what happened on that date when Vicky McGraw was murdered and left on the side of the road like a bag of trash. Mr. Bagley was the oldest of this foursome. He was 22 years old. Two of the others involved were only teenagers. He could have been the voice of reason in this thing. He could have been the one to change his mind in the middle of the plot and say, you know, guys, this is not a good idea. It's Christmas time. We ought to be being with our families and doing Christmas things, not planning to go out and rob and kill people. So thank you for letting me tell you what really happened on that date. I would also be curious, in a previous report that I read from 2015, Mr. Bagley had not even received his GED at that time. Does he even have a GED now? What's he going to do? Where's he going to go? What is his plan? I haven't heard anything about that. So anyway, I'm not going to go on, but this family, to say that they were devastated, I am going to go on about that for just another minute. Vicky McGraw's family, these are salt of the earth, productive, working. One of them owned a business, people who were living their lives that would never consider harming another human being. Vicky was the youngest of 5 siblings. These were not people who just got together at Thanksgiving and Christmas. These people were close. They adored each other, and they could not believe that their youngest sibling had been taken from them in such a horrific way. They're elderly now. One of them's in assisted living. I've spoken with the family. So please don't think that the fact that they could not participate in person today means that they are no longer interested, because they very much are. So in closing, I would just like to say that I did not get the impression from today that Mr. Bagley is sorry that Vicky McGraw is dead. I didn't hear any remorse for Vicky or for her family. I don't believe his little half-hearted apology at the end that he didn't mean to mislead you all or misinterpret. I think that is exactly what he intended to do. And I think he's already received the benefit of a 30-year sentence, with considering the level of his participation in this. And I think that it is not excessive at all. And I'm just respectfully asking the board to hold him 30 years accountable for the sake of Vicky McGraw, all who loved her, and for the sake of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fitzgerald. Appreciate your input and the work that you do. Is the board ready to vote?
Yes, I am.
Okay, since I was the one that handled this case, my vote is to deny the parole, and I don't know. Anyway, I feel like you have not at this point taken any kind of accountability for your involvement in it, and I don't think you have the remorse that would normally accompany somebody that had done what you were involved in doing, and you were directly involved in it. You provided the gun, and you helped to cover up the crime, and you used some of the fruits of the crime. So my vote is to deny.
Mr. Bagley, I'm glad to see that you have taken victim awareness and that you have good conduct in the facility. That speaks well of you. However, I echo Ms. Fitzgerald and my colleague, and one of the notes I wrote was, he is not accepting responsibility. Sir, regardless of how minimal you believe your conduct was involved in this crime, you have to accept some responsibility for what happened. And without that remorse, at this point, my vote is to deny.
Okay, Mr. Bagley, I see things totally different. You've done 20 years, you've done great. You've had no disciplinary problems, you caused no problem, but I'm only one vote. My vote would have been to grant with no contact with the victim. But keep trying, man. You're doing a good job in my book.
Okay, that will conclude this hearing from Southwest. The time is 9:30 a.m. That concludes our hearing with the denial.